freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dream some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all.
So a deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we know in this great and wonderful land of ours. I'm Dr. George Simon, welcoming you to another edition of Character Matters. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we face and that influences so many aspects, just about every aspect of our lives, from our economic situation to our political situation, to the situation in our homes, in our communities. Character matters. It matters more than anything else. And I'm energized about the topic because I have been doing workshops once again across the country, and will be continuing to do so for the rest of the year, maybe into next year as well, carrying the word to helping professionals who are trying to help people in difficult situations and who are on the front lines of dealing with our character problems and who have been hamstrung, shall we say, and put at a disadvantage by traditional notions about what makes people tick and how to help people change, notions that have outlived their usefulness and no longer really help folks deal with the phenomenon of our time. So that's why I blog at manipulative-people.com. That's Dr. George Simon's blog on psychological issues, relationship issues at manipulative-people.com, a resource not just for dealing with manipulators, but all of the more difficult folks in your life. And also I blog for a blog based in the UK called Psychology, Philosophy, and Real Life at www.counselingresource.com. That's counseling resource with two L's, counselingresource.com. I blog there as well. And then also I carry the word out in my books, the international bestseller In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People, and also my book Character Disturbance, the phenomenon of our time, of our age rather, the in-depth look at all the disturbed characters out there, from psychopaths to narcissists to the antisocial personality types. You name it, we've got it in there. What makes them tick, how to recognize and spot these folks, how to save yourself a lot of headache and heartache, and how especially to deal with such folks as you encounter them in your relationships, where you work, maybe even in your own home. So as I said, I'm energized. I'm energized particularly because my other book, The Judas Syndrome, written for the Christian faith community, was once again the number one requested book at my workshops. And quite frankly, the Christian community does not comprise a majority of my workshop attendees. Nonetheless, I was more than edified to see that people truly are, even among health professionals, people are truly spiritually hungry. They're looking for something. They're looking, once again, for some guidance. They're looking for a pathway to personal growth. And they're looking basically to understand what I call the phenomenon of our time. And so I am edified, and I'm really highly energized because once again, I did another round of workshops, this time in Columbus, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, and in Indianapolis, Indiana. And once again, like the previous workshops that I did just a few weeks earlier in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Oh, we've got a caller coming in. I'm going to go ahead and no, I guess we don't. I'm sorry. We don't have that. I was going to, I thought I had to pick up a call, but I guess I don't. Sorry about that interruption. But what I was saying is that like an earlier round of workshops in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and in Omaha, Nebraska, and Des Moines, Iowa, the very first thing that happened at the very first workshop is I sold out of Judas Syndrome books. And I was careful to have drop shipped a greater number of books, thinking that I had an estimate right of how many I'd need to have on hand. And once again, the same thing happened. This is very edifying to me. It tells me unequivocally that folks are spiritually hungry. It also tells me that clinicians are very well aware, mental health professionals of all types, whether they're social workers, psychologists, licensed counselors, pastoral counselors, A&D counselors, regardless of the persuasion of folks, regardless of the mental health discipline that they're in, folks are hungry for spiritual direction and for guidance and for a paradigm within which to work to help people, because folks on the front lines of our problems know that most of our problems coming to the attention of mental health professionals these days are character related. Oh, I know. And you know, I've gone on about this before, but I'll go on about it again. I don't mind saying it over and over again. It doesn't really matter what kind of label that's put on an individual who's come in for counseling of one type or another. We throw out medical diagnoses and psychological diagnoses, psychiatric diagnoses, like popcorn sometimes. We throw them out without due abandon. You know, as a matter of fact, one thing that many clinicians forget is that when you're having a rough time with a difficult situation and you just want to talk to somebody about it, actually, you don't have a disorder at all. You don't have a medical diagnosis at all. There are many reasons why you might want to talk to someone, a professional, especially if you don't have suitable family or other support resources, or maybe you just want a purely objective ear to listen to you and to give you some feedback. Maybe you're just looking for a trained professional with the wisdom of the years and a broader background to help you address your problems. But if you're dealing with a stressful situation and you're distressed about it, and you want to talk to somebody about it, that doesn't necessarily mean you're suffering from any kind of condition at all. But for various reasons, mostly for insurance reimbursement reasons, the clinician will many times make a diagnosis, even when there isn't one, technically speaking. And this is kind of a shame. Actually, I think our whole mental health system, in many ways, needs to be completely overhauled and looked at. And I was talking to the folks at one of my workshops about the need to even redefine what we consider to be a disorder. We were talking about certain of the politicians who were clearly good examples of narcissism, some real strong egomaniacal traits in their personalities. But by definition, by the operational definitions that we have adopted, you could not consider any of these folks disordered, because in order to apply that label, you have to have such a degree of dysfunction, or to be causing so much distress in your life or in the lives of other folks, or to have such intensity to your dysfunctional style of coping that you basically can't cope, that you're not coping, that it's not working, and it's causing severe problems. And that's often not the case. As a matter of fact, it's often the case in many areas of our lives where persons with some really undesirable personality traits actually thrive in certain environments, especially like in high-powered finance or corporate America. Certain traits are actually prized and valued, even though they might be dysfunctional in the home. So, we have a lot of rethinking to do. We're not anywhere near where we need to be in either understanding the problems that we're facing today or in intervening appropriately. Too many times I hear from individuals, I get so many emails. And by the way, before I launch into that, I do want to say a very sincere apology to all of you out there who might have been emailing me over the last month or so, because I am further behind answering than I have ever been. And I've had people suggest to me that what I really need is an assistant to do that for me. Well, I do like to personally touch base with all the folks that have taken the time and made the effort to relay their stories to me, to make contact with me, and I do not feel like I want to give them short shrift. If they've taken the time and made such an effort to seek me out personally, I want to respond. But my time has not been my own lately, especially because I've been traveling and doing these workshops. So bear with me, folks. If you have written me, if you've sent me an email, or if you've written me in any other way, and you haven't heard from me yet, please be patient. I will respond. I promise. I'm just further behind than I've ever been. As a matter of fact, I'm about 3.5 weeks behind. I do have to do a triage of sorts. I have to prioritize certain kinds of emails. And in some cases, I'm that far behind. And I do apologize. I'm going to do my best to rectify that over this next week. If you want to contact me, however, and you have an issue you really want to address, the best way to do it and get me right off the bat is to give us a call here at UCY TV. And the number to call for Character Matters is 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. If you'd like to join this conversation, if you'd like to share with me a circumstance, you'd like to get an opinion on something, you'd like to make a general comment, you want to share a story that you think would be of interest to the listeners, perhaps you even have a disagreement with me on some count or another, that's fine. Give us a call at 718-717-8296. I'm happy to take your call. Love to hear from you. But what I was saying is that I did these two last rounds of workshops, 3 workshops in the upper Midwest, and then in the heart of the Midwest just this past week. And I was edified to find so many helping professionals coming to terms with the fact that that they did not have the tools that they really needed to help individuals. And as I was mentioning before, I get so many people who have called me or who have written me or have emailed me to say that when they went looking for help, they didn't get the kind of help they need. Worse than that, not only did they get the kind of help they needed, but they also many times felt victimized in some way. They suffered what I call therapy-induced trauma. Perhaps they took their character dysfunctional partner. Perhaps they cajoled them into the therapy process or the counseling process with them, only to have this charming but nonetheless dysfunctional personality charm and manipulate the therapist, impression manage the therapist, and say all the right things and do all the right things, and then kind of get away without being detected for the true character that they were. And this only made the individual who wanted to get some help feel even crazier than before. You know, there's a term that has been popularized lately called gaslighting. And the term gaslighting comes from the stage play and the movie of the same name, Gaslight, in which the plot basically is of this husband who wants to try and get rid of his wife by making her believe that she's gone insane, so that she would voluntarily admit herself to the loony bin, to the insane asylum. It's quite an interesting study. But as folks who deal with disturbed characters of all types know, especially the most manipulative types, especially those that I call the proverbial wolves in sheep's clothing, or manipulative personalities that can look so deceptively civil and charming on the outside, but are ruthless and heartless on the inside, and will do all they can to get the better of you. And they'll end up making you feel crazy because they pull their shenanigans and they manage their impressions with such conviction that they make you doubt yourself, even though your gut tells you that there's something really seriously wrong with them. They have you doubting. And this is really the art of manipulation for some of these characters. And that's what the gaslighting effect is all about, making you feel crazy. And as I mentioned in my book, In Sheep's Clothing, this is primarily because the tactics these folks use are not obvious weapons of assault, of emotional violence, of emotional warfare. The tactics they use seem benign enough, and they invite you to feel crazy and to doubt yourself, even though your gut tells you that the person is out to get the better of you, out to kind of emotionally wear you down or beat you up. And I gave some examples of this in the vignettes that I presented at my workshops so that I could illustrate for the clinicians who are trying to provide help in our character-disturbed age, just what so many folks go through in their relationships these days. And I was so edified by the reception. We had oversold attendance at all 3 of the workshops that I did this past week. Same was true for the round before 3 weeks earlier. And I'm happy to announce that next on the calendar is the Big Apple in early June. And you can find information about it on my blog site at www.manipulative-people.com. That's manipulative-people.com. Go to the seminars and workshops page, click on the button there, and you will see information about the upcoming workshops in New York. And if you live in that area, you will certainly want to, if you're a clinician trying to help people salvage a crazy-making relationship or deal with a crazy-making relationship, or if you are trying to help instill and grow and nurture some character in your clients so that they can begin to lead more responsible, productive lives and not have so many of the train wrecks that they have had in their lives before and not cause so many wreckages in their relationships like they have been doing. You'll certainly want to make these workshops, and you'll find the details on my blog site at manipulative-people.com. You can also go to the Cross Country Education website, and Cross Country Education Seminars is the entity that sponsors my workshops for professionals. And so you can go to their website, and best thing to do is look under the speaker's name, look under my name, George Simon, and you'll get a whole list of the upcoming events. And we are planning very soon on some more information being posted. So we'll have at least 4 more rounds of workshops, and that'll be 12 different venues that will be posted in the next 30 days or so on my blog site and on the Cross Country Education website. So be sure to keep tabs. I'll be having more announcements on this program, as well as at the end of my weekly posts on manipulative-people.com. So I'm happy to provide you more information about that. I encourage all of you out there who may be listening and who are helping professionals to think about joining us when we come to your area. I promise it will be well worth your while. I mentioned the 3 books that I already have out, and very soon, hopefully around the middle of April, there will be another book out, a co-written project between with myself and Kathy Armistead, an excellent writer and a very experienced mental health professional in her own right, and also very well spiritually grounded individual. And the title of that book is How Did We End Up Here? And it's a look at how individuals who have been or have gotten themselves into difficult relationships got to the place they are and are trying to figure things out. Perhaps they're actually in the midst of a problem relationship and wondering how it got to that point. Perhaps they've come to the end of a problem relationship and are wondering how in the world it happened and what they can do to avoid some similar pitfalls again. And then perhaps also a person is wondering how we got here as a society. This is something I talked about at the workshops last week for quite a bit of time. You know, as I talk about so often, and I'll say again, I don't mind repeating myself because we have new members or new listeners all the time to the program. I don't mind saying that the phenomenon of our time, this character disturbance problem that we're having, is a phenomenon of our culture. And as I point out many times, and the very first thing I point out in my book, Character Disturbance, this is not the Victorian era. where all of our major traditional theories of psychology were born. That was a very socially repressive time. It was a very sexually repressive and a very human needs repressive time. And people, as we children of the 60s are wont to say, people were excessively and unreasonably uptight and hung up about a variety of things. So uptight and so hung up, in fact, that they were anxious wrecks in many ways. And all of our major theories of human functioning, psychological functioning, that is, all of our major theories that were born in that time, sought to address this problem of why people can sometimes get so incredibly over-anxious and dysfunction as a result of that excessive anxiety. But as I tell all my folks in workshops these days over and over again, times have really changed. We no longer have individuals who are suffering from such pathological levels of what we have always called neurosis that they can't even function. In fact, the neurotics among us are those folks who are just hung up enough about the things that other folks might just as well let themselves do, that they make our civilized world a possibility. So, we owe a lot to those among us who are just a little bit uptight and a little bit hung up, especially when it comes to just acting on their primal urges, just behaving basically like animals. And we owe a lot to those folks because that's what makes society work. Unfortunately, there are more of us today who behave more like animals, and that's causing our civilization to really deteriorate. And it's a vicious cycle, without any question. As we become less civilized individually, as we become so dysfunctional, our overall culture decays. And as our overall culture decays, it promotes more and more character dysfunction. It's a true vicious cycle. I'll repeat that because it's so important. Our culture and our individual character, they have an integral relationship with one another. And the vicious cycle we're experiencing right now is that because we have more and more folks whose character is underdeveloped or impaired or significantly arrested or disordered, because we have so many folks like that today, many of our institutions, many of our most important institutions in our culture, many of our most important building blocks of civilization are crumbling all around us. And as those things crumble, as our values and standards erode, and as the essential building blocks of a sound society deteriorate, then that enables and even promotes and rewards increased character dysfunction. It's a true vicious cycle. And it's one that's spiraling out of control, and everyone knows it. And that's why, at the beginning and the end of this program, you always hear this patriotic piece. You might be scratching your head. You might be one of those folks thinking, what is this song that Dr. Simon plays at the beginning and end of the program? What does this have to do with character matters? Well, the fact is our founders had this idea. And that is, you build a society that has guarantees of maximum freedom. And if you have people if you have people with very sound moral compasses and you give them maximum freedom, people of character, people of sound character and judgment, people who don't need the government or anyone else telling them how to live their lives because they already know. They already have the moral, spiritual, and psychological foundation to do a good job conducting themselves, forming relationships, holding their relationships together, building strong, solid marriages, raising responsible children, character-laden children, character-developed children. Then the society prospers. And the society prospers because there's nothing in the way. There are no strings, no chains, no binds limiting people. People of good character don't need those chains. They need freedom. They need freedom to express, freedom to create. They don't need anybody imposing rules or constrictions on them because they already have the necessary rules imposed on themselves. But what's happening is all of our freedoms are under assault. That's why you hear the song play that plays. Our freedoms are under assault because as our character has declined, our overall character has declined, and as our individual characters have eroded, there's this constant temptation to micromanage us by the government. The government has more laws on the books right now than it's ever had. And why? All in an attempt to get people to behave correctly in a pro-social way. All in a way to try and engineer the way society functions. Well, people of good character, they don't need those rules. They just don't. They've got an internal moral compass that drives them, a value system that drives them. So the song you hear speaks of freedom and its preeminence in a society like ours. And it also speaks to the truth, the undeniable truth, that our country's greatness has never resided in our military might or our economic power, although none can contest that on those two fronts we are a force to be contended with. But our greatness has never resided there. It's never lay in our military might or our economic power. America's greatness has always resided in the character of its people, especially those common individuals, the average person who takes their responsibilities seriously, all of their responsibilities and duties as husband, wife, parent, teacher, coach, and who nurtures character development in our youngsters, and who behaves responsibly at home and at the office, on the job. That's what makes it all work. That's where America's greatness has always been. People of good character build great relationships. Great relationships at home and at work build great entities, build great communities, and great communities build great countries. It's just that simple. It's not easy, but it is that simple. And Alexis, yes, I see a call coming in here, and I'm going to go ahead and take this call. Hello, and welcome to Character Matters.
Hello. Thank you. I'm listening to your program. I don't know if I'm on the air or not.
Yes, you are.
Okay, I will turn this down. What I wanted to ask Doctor is, and I couldn't get my computer going so I could listen, but what you're talking about is how and what do we do? I mean, this is actually what is going on in our country, our last stand.
Mm-hmm.
In saying what is the truth, I mean, we're on a thread that's so thin it's ready to break around the world.
Yes.
We no longer have a freedom of speech. If we speak out political correctness, what do we do? Well, we've got an individual that, and I believe it starts very early in youth for reasons of having too much or not having too much.
Yes.
Not being nurtured or being overly nurtured, etc. But the thing is, okay, we've got this. How do we begin to
how do we address the problem? Huh?
Yes, especially say we've got such a character disordered individual,
yeah,
and we try to get them to hit their bottom. People keep interfering, and they don't let them fall. Well, they fall and they fall again. A lot of times it's saying, don't say anything. But
right.
I have found these individuals do know there's something wrong with them.
Yes.
They do know what they're doing is wrong. They do know. How do we begin to make them get them?
Yeah, you asked the most excellent question, and I want to address it directly, but I want to ask you if you would be willing to hang on here, because I want to turn it back around and ask for some of your opinions too. But you asked a great question, and I'm going to give you some general principles that I believe have to be restored.
Sure.
Number one, I talk about this in all three of my books, but especially my last two books, Character Disturbance and the Judas Syndrome. There has been this mega trend over the last 30 or 40 years that is most insidious and most disturbing to me. And this is the mega trend as I see it. The trend has been for the responsibility, the burdens placed on individuals who are already willing to shoulder the burdens of responsible living. The burden on those folks keeps growing. As a matter of fact, it keeps growing exponentially every day. Whereas the burden on those individuals who have basically shirked their responsibilities and haven't shown any willingness whatsoever to pick up the burdens associated with building a strong, healthy community and doing an honest day's work, et cetera, et cetera. The burden on these individuals has grown less and less and less and less. And this mega trend, this is one thing that absolutely has to be stopped dead in its tracks. We can no longer do this. I'll give you a couple of examples. I've spent part of my professional career consulting to some of the most seriously character disturbed individuals in our country, those who have gone to prison. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that while there is some truth to the fact that some individuals probably are best dealt with not sending them to prison, I can also tell you that by and large these days, you have to violate your probation umpteen times. You have to tick off the judge umpteen times. You have to be so dysfunctional, be so crazy as to truly earn prison. I'm going to patch somebody else in here too, but I'm going to ask them to hold on. Hang on one second. Hello and welcome to Character Matters. I'm going to ask you to hold on for just a bit, okay?
Seriously.
Yeah. Yes, hold on for just a bit, okay?
All right.
Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, hold on for just a bit. I'm going to ask you to hold on.
Okay, thank you, man.
Okay, and so one of the things that I noticed that within these populations is that many times, because of what we afford people who are so completely dysfunctional, who can't manage their own lives, uh, we pay for dental care, health care, a lot of things. I have known people who will deliberately, basically, violate, say, for instance, probation, just to get back in a program, in an incarcerated program where they'll get, say, free medical or dental care. It's really absurd. I know that doesn't make any sense to anybody, but that actually happens. So, so my point is that this trend of responsibility being placed less and less on irresponsible individuals, and responsible people asked to do more and more, this has to end. People have to be held to account, period. We have to be accountable for our behavior. So that's one thing that has to happen. I'd like to hear you respond to that.
Okay, boy, huge question. But basically, I think I go back to, and I remember the New Society coming in with, Johnson. The Society of Entitlement with Welfare will pay the mother to stay home with a child and give her welfare, and it kept building and building and building on that. Mm-hmm. But I think this insidious problem starts at the very top levels of our government with the powers that be that basically are corrupting and taking the rights away from people. And they're doing this by giving them freebies and everything else, and jobs are taken away. We don't have jobs for people that we want to give them to. And I think that it's basically a collusion of the powers that be throughout the world to take over the masses of people. Mm-hmm. We're talking, people can look at it as a conspiracy. I don't care. But it is. We've lost all of our moral integrity. We are losing it around the world. We're losing our cultures. We're losing our families. We're losing people. They're losing themselves. And I think it all starts there because they are the ones that are passing the laws that you have the right to say this, do this, do this. And there isn't any ethical responsibility anymore to be decent, to be moral. They pay you to be immoral. There's 10 laws on the books, but there is no accountability or responsibility.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little further than that. You know, we talk about they in the government, but the fact is the government doesn't have its own resources. Their resources come from us. And if I came into your home and I said that I needed money from you, basically to provide you a service. Let's say the service was cleaning your gutters, and then I was also going to do your walkway, or maybe power wash your home. That would be an agreement between you and I would not be stealing from you. But if I made an agreement with you that I would take some of your resources to provide you these services, and then with your money, I decided to give it away to somebody else who had not truly merited it and wasn't truly in dire need of it, that's thievery.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so the government doesn't just have these resources, they take it from us. And that's what I mean about the burden on responsible people, growing and growing and growing. And it's coming from our government. They're placing that burden on us. And meanwhile, those who are not being held to account are held to less and less and less account. That can't go on. It just can't.
I think they said 53% of the people no longer pay taxes. They're on entitlements, and that 47% are actually working to cover these benefits.
Yeah.
And it's so lopsided. I don't know where it's going to go because basically people like you do not have a voice in it. The people that are paying anymore, there aren't enough of them for a voice. Because they're allowing even people that are illegal not to be here to have a voice to vote. and they say you don't have anything to say about it.
Yeah.
They automatically take it from your paycheck, and they tell you you're going to. You don't have honest politicians anymore. I mean, I think last time I could think of somebody, Truman, with if the buck stops here. Where do we have somebody that's saying they're going to do the honest, decent thing anymore?
Yeah.
We don't. Everybody, it's almost like can be bought for very little. And it's about power and control. You talk about the ultimate narcissist, there we go.
Yeah.
Power, control of the peoples.
Yeah. Let's let the other caller who called in.
Sure. Thank you, Doctor. And your the song is absolutely lovely. Just it's at least there's something invigorating and beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. You know,
you're welcome.
Since that song went viral 12 years or so ago, it has been performed in individual small venues across the country to over 6 million people.
I believe it. It is.
And it's one way that I'm trying to touch hearts. You know, how we're going to win this war is
one at a time, Doc.
One heart at a time, one heart and mind at a time. And
I agree.
Yeah, that's how we're going to do it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Caller, are you there?
Yeah, hey, I'm here, Ron.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, hey, look, I've been listening to you since I think 2008 or 9, and I tell you what, I've loved all your shows and everything. But you know what? I had to call in tonight because you said America is a great country. Well, I have to disagree. America is a P.U.S. country. I mean, not the land itself, but the government that runs it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and I tell you what, talk about a.
I will have to agree with you that it's not the country that it was, and you know we've had our periods. We've had periods. Yeah. We've had periods of great shame in our country, and we've had periods of shining greatness, and this is not one of our great periods.
Well, I was just going on by what you said tonight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I've been listening. And I just cannot agree with what you said, and it makes me sick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let me ask you, what do you think? What do you think we need to do to restore our greatness? What do you think we need to do?
I'll tell you what. I think what we need to do is anarchy.
Anarchy.
In the true sense, not the mainstream media definition of.
Give me a little bit more about what you're saying there. Tell me exactly what you mean by anarchy.
Well, the thing is, anarchy is actually just do no harm.
Mm-hmm. So you want maximum.
I'm sure you can agree with that.
So you want maximum.
But the thing is, I was listening tonight, and I heard you say America is a great country. I said, no, it ain't, and that's what got me to call.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's still a great country. It is not what it used to be.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great land, and the people are good.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
As far as it goes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. And
yeah.
we can make it truly great again.
Well, I'm not a Donald Trump thing either.
Yeah.
I mean, we ain't gonna make America great either.
Yeah. Well,
that's just all sick shit there.
Yeah.
Excuse my French, okay?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your comments. I thank you for calling in and expressing your sentiments. I do think we can convert this country one heart and mind at a time.
Well,
And
what are you going to do about
I'm going to
Canada?
keep doing my best.
Well, what are you going to do about Canada?
What do you mean?
I mean, Canada is just as bad as America.
I'm not going to worry about Canada. I'm worrying about this great land of ours.
Well, what is ours? What do you mean by that?
We're all in this together. We Americans are.
Well, we are, but the thing is, there's us and them. I mean, there's Canada and America. I mean, and how are we going to differentiate?
We have our hands full rebuilding the greatness of this country. We have our hands full. And
do you
I just
let me ask you a question. Do you actually see that happening?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. I see.
Do you?
I see that we either will rebuild our families and our communities and our general communities. I think we will either do that and therefore rebuild the country, or we will go down.
Well, it's already down.
Yeah. And I'm on the front lines of trying to build this back up, and I appreciate your call. And
you know what?
I hope.
And Ron, let me tell you something.
George, by the way,
I've been listening to you so many years now.
It's George.
Huh?
My name is George.
George?
Yeah, that's my name.
Oh, I thought it was on the Ron Steffens channel.
No.
Damn it. What an idiot. I'm an idiot.
but I thank you for calling.
Well, damn it. Oh, man, I was on CYTV, and I thought I was on the Ron show.
No. This is Character Matters with Dr. George Simon.
Oh, okay. This is Character Matters.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
That's all right.
Jesus.
And welcome to the
I
program.
must be an idiot then.
It's all right. Thanks for calling in.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Good night. Well, I thank the caller for calling in anyway, and I thank the previous caller as well. I'm not sure exactly where I was before the two calls that I took tonight, but I want to say something about the greatness of America. And I also want to say something about the inspiration for that song. I'm going to keep playing it at the beginning and the end of each program. I am not a professional, I am not a well-trained musician or composer or an artist of any kind. This is the truth of how that song was born. I was working on a book that is still unpublished about the interdependence of freedom and character. And out of nowhere, this melody began to play in my head. And when I say that it haunted me, I mean that. I mean that it haunted me day and night. It never left me. It haunted me to the point that I just knew I had to do something about it. This was in 1998. And in 1999, convinced that it might be, I knew that it was going to be a patriotic piece. I knew that. In 1999, convinced that it might end up being an anthem for the new millennium, I got together some folks to help me, because the only instrument that I've ever been able to play with any decency is my voice. My voice is my only instrument. I really suck at the piano and every other thing I've tried to play. I have two sons who are gifted. I have one son, everything he picks up he can play. I have another son who is an excellent musician in his own right. And the only instrument I've ever played is my voice. So I had to solicit the help of other individuals to help me get down this melody that was just haunting me. And I couldn't figure out why this inspiration was even coming to me. But to make a long story short, over the course of the year, I got this thing scored, and with my wife's help, crafted lyrics for it. And then just with my own money, and just really for the heck of it, had it produced. And that took me a while because I didn't know how to do that myself either. And when the product was done, I had no earthly idea what we were supposed to do with it. And one day I actually had a tape of it in my back pocket, and I just happened to be strolling down one of our riverfront parks here in Little Rock, Arkansas, where I live. And there was a sign for the planning committee of our annual patriotic festival along the riverfront. The steering committee was meeting that day, and I took this tape out of my back pocket and I gave it to one of the members of this committee, and I just asked them to listen to it. And then I left figuring that they would probably throw it in the trash can. Well, the next thing you know, it was on the bill for performance at our festival. And then a few months later, after a great reception to the song, when it debuted, a few months later, when the tragic events of September 11th, 2001 took place, a local television station on a regional ABC affiliate paired the song with a video collage of the events of the week. And it went out on the air every night after the weekly news broadcast, and then got picked up by other places. And before you know it, the song that is known as America, My Home, was a phenomenon. And one heart at a time, folks singing it in churches, on patriotic holidays, at civic events, veterans events, 4th of July celebrations, Memorial Day, these kinds of things. One heart at a time, carrying the message, touching people's hearts. This is how you do it. You inspire people. We can be great again. We can. And it isn't going to happen like one of our candidates, Mr. Trump, is suggesting. It's not going to happen that way. It's going to happen as we convert hearts and we come to our senses about personal responsibility and the importance of character. That's how it's going to happen. As the title of this program suggests, character matters. It matters to every single aspect of our lives. Our parents knew this. Our teachers knew this. Our religious formators knew this. This is what has always made America great. It's when we are individually responsible, not entitled, not coddled, not overvalued, but responsible and faithful to our ideals. So, with that in mind, let's let America, My Home carry us out for another edition of Character Matters, and I invite you to tune in again next week. I'm Dr. George Simon. Remember, character does matter. I'll see you again next week. Enjoy America, My Home.